Why are the lights so bright? Is it me or are they brighter than they usually are? The lights. I'm just like perspirating a lot here.
Deep breaths.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start up, okay.
Hello and welcome back to SportsZone. We're kicking it off with the important stuff like we usually do. Studio 90 is back after a 2-week hiatus. Joined by Aaron, and a lot's been going on in the 2-week absence of Studio 90. Champions League first legs have been played and setting up for some pretty interesting second legs. I think we'll talk about those matches. We'll start with probably what a lot of people saw was the marquee matchup of the round. That was Tottenham against Juventus in Italy. The tie lived up to all the hype, and even though Juventus, a team that's typically defensive-minded, in this game had a lot of goals. Do you think any side benefits from this 2-2 result more?
Well, I think it was a great game. I think Tottenham benefit just because they got those 2 away goals. I think nobody really thought that they would even score against that Juventus defense away from home in Italy, but they scored 2 goals. Harry Kane had a great goal, and I think Tottenham came out attacking. They had a great attacking intent, went down early but came back. I think it really showed Tottenham's quality and showed that even though some think of them as sort of a smaller club when it comes to the big clubs in England, that they can compete with the big guns in Europe like Juventus. So definitely a very impressive performance for Tottenham. And it's still going to be tough going home because Juventus are a great team. They're especially great on the road. But I think that with those 2 away goals, that Tottenham have a great chance to advance to the next round.
And do you think they will get on to the quarterfinals?
It's tough to say. I still think Juventus, because they have more quality, will advance, even though Tottenham got those 2 away goals. I think that Tottenham going to Wembley in Europe, it's a little bit dicey, so I think that even though they got those 2 away goals, Juventus will advance to the quarterfinals.
And Juventus hopefully will be boosted by the injury returns of guys like Blas, Matuidi, Juan Cuadrado, Paulo Dybala, who are all injured for the first leg. So with those big guns, it should make for an interesting second leg. Another first round of 16 tie that sort of had a finals feel to it going in was PSG playing against Real Madrid. You had the subplot of Neymar going against Real Madrid again, circulating rumors there. But Aaron, really, Neymar was disappointing and Cristiano Ronaldo rising to the occasion again. Do you think with Real Madrid winning that first leg 3-1, PSG has any hope going back to France of overturning this?
Even though PSG are down 3-1, I still do think they have a chance in the second leg. But like you mentioned, Neymar was very, very disappointing in that first leg. It seemed as though he was showboating, trying to take 2 or 3 players on at a time when he should have been passing to Cavani or Mbappe. So definitely a disappointing performance from Neymar. And like you said, Cristiano Ronaldo, like he does, always rises to the occasion. But PSG still have a chance in this tie. You know, they're down 3-1. They still do have that away goal. But when you've got Neymar, Cavani, and Mbappe up top, you're always going to be able to score goals. You're always going to be able to keep the defense on their heels. So even though they are down 3-1, they have a chance. I still do think Real Madrid will advance because they have more quality and they have more experience in the Champions League, winning it the past 2 years. And even though they haven't been playing well in La Liga, if they do advance, they have a great chance of winning this whole thing just because Cristiano Ronaldo is a guy who always rises to the occasion in the Champions League. They have other guys who have experience in that realm. So if they advance, then I definitely think that they're the favorites going forward.
Yeah, it's mind-bogglingly the polarizing form between Real Madrid in Europe versus in the league, but they always get the job done. As you mentioned, Cristiano Ronaldo scoring twice, now 100 goals in the Champions League for Real Madrid. Even in the worst season of his career, he's still getting it done in Europe, and that will make for an interesting second leg for sure. Another tie, we seem to have like 3 final caliber matchups in this round of 16. Chelsea playing Barcelona. Those teams sort of entered the game with differing form. Chelsea really suffering in the league, even in performances in the FA Cup, but they were able to grind out a 1-1 result against Barcelona. Do you think that's something that they can replicate going to Spain, or is sort of a one-off type thing and Chelsea may be dead in the water?
I really don't see Chelsea having any chance of advancing. Like you said, at home they grinded out that one-run result, and they played so well throughout the entire game, and to give up that late goal to Lionel Messi was so tough for them because they were playing well, and going 1-0 into the Camp Nou would have given them a better chance to advance. But I just think that away goal from Barcelona, it kind of leaves Chelsea dead in the water because they go away to a team that's been playing so well. Chelsea just lost this morning to Manchester United. They haven't been playing well. They're dipping form along with Barcelona, playing so well both in the league and in Europe. I just can't see Chelsea beating Barcelona, especially the way Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez are performing.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you there. So those were our sort of three prominent matchups. Another sort of interesting result maybe people wouldn't have expected was Manchester United really struggling away in Seville against Sevilla. David De Gea showing why he's the best shot stopper in the world. But a sort of a subplot in that game is the sort of Jose Mourinho versus Paul Pogba and his agent. And Aaron, do you think that's intruding or becoming a distraction that's impacting the way Manchester United plays?
It's certainly becoming a distraction. I think that's the question that Jose Mourinho keeps getting asked at his press conferences, and it's just not going away anytime soon because Paul Pogba, along with the fact that he's being bent, he's just not been playing well right now. So Jose Mourinho's been put in a tough spot. But going back to that United-Sevilla tie, United played terribly that entire game. Should have lost the game 2 or 3-0 if we're being quite honest here. If it wasn't for the heroics of David De Gea, we could be looking at a completely different tie right here. And I think it kind of goes back to Jose Mourinho's tactics. He goes into that game no really attacking intent, telling his team to just sit back and defend. And I think that hurt them because they weren't pressuring Sevilla. Sevilla were just able to play it out of the back and play it forward. And I think Jose Mourinho will definitely have to look at his tactics and say, should we go more attacking in the second leg? But like you said, that tension between Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, and definitely could distract the team going into the second leg.
Certainly. They seem to be able to bury the hatchet, at least for the time being, winning this weekend. Paul Pogba back in the starting lineup against Chelsea, but it remains to be seen whether this is just a smooth over of a bump or whether there's smooth sailing in the horizon for Paul Pogba and Jose Mourinho. The other 4 matchups, 3 blowouts by teams, Manchester City, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich, and then sort of a surprising result, potentially, Shakhtar Donetsk at home beating Roma 2-1. Aaron, do you think where we see a lot of these big teams sort of performing well, a team like Shakhtar or Roma could sort of be a dark horse in this Champions League where we have a lot of front-loaded power teams?
Yeah, definitely surprising to see Shakhtar win this game, just because they're playing Ukraine. They're not the biggest club, but they were able to beat a team in Roma who have been playing well in Serie A, so that was definitely a surprising result. I still think Roma are going to be able to win at home and come out of this tie, and I can definitely see Roma being a bit of a dark horse going forward. They have Edin Dzeko, who's been playing great this season, who's been bagging in goals, and definitely he's a guy that can propel them in the next round, maybe playing against a bigger club who won't expect to lose. I definitely think Roma are a team that, even though many people aren't looking at them as a team that can make it to the semifinal or even the final, could maybe even be a dark horse in this competition.
Yeah, and certainly, all that said, it's setting up for a really exciting second match day in the round of 16. We'll keep an eye on those matches going forward, but that's all the time we have for this edition of Studio 90. Stick around for more SportsZone after this.
Welcome back to SportsZone, and this is your favorite baseball segment, Getting to Third Base. I'm here today with Aviva. Christian is in Florida enjoying the wonderful weather of spring training and meeting every single Mets player. Lucky her. But spring training's here, so that's a plus. But there was one last signing before spring training started. J.D. Martinez, Aviva, take it away.
So J.D. Martinez, for the past few years, was on the Detroit Tigers, but then midway through the season last year, he was traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he did really well. His average was a 303, which is really good. But he signed with the Boston Red Sox for the last signing before spring training. It's actually pending a physical right now, but it still thinks it's going to go through a little bit more negotiation, but he'll be a Red Sox player. And the Red Sox lineup right now for the 2018 season looks really good. It's very well-rounded. And I think they added JT Martinez to compete with the New York Yankees, because the New York Yankees have Stanton and Judge and Gary Sanchez. So I think it's a really good deal that the Red Sox signed JT Martinez. He'll probably bat DH and really be good for that already well-rounded lineup.
Some good news out of Beantown as they look forward to another season trying to win that AL East banner. On the other side of things, Tampa Bay Rays made some questionable moves, trading away their all-star from last season, Corey Dickerson, who's a very well-noted power bat. Originally from Colorado, came to a trade to Tampa Bay for Jake McGee, the relief pitcher. Head scratcher, at least for me. You know, you don't just kind of cut your all-star for nothing. It really looks like that they're trying to cut down that payroll again, which is not exactly good for Tampa Bay fans, and just hurts in the midst of an offseason where they trade away their franchise icon. As well, Shohei Ohtani made his very, very long-awaited debut in the MLB, lasting for 1.1 innings, striking out 2, giving up 2 runs and 1 home run. Overall, he looked like he still had a lot of that great pitching tangibles that brought him to the MLB. Some of the hitters talked about how he was able to switch things up as soon as he saw that they were able to catch up with his fastball. So very promising returns on that front for the Angels. Now, since Kristen's not here, we're going to do a very personal segment here about each of our teams. Aviva, why don't you talk about the Mets for this spring training?
Okay, so the New York Mets, so the big thing to watch in spring training and 2018 season is our pitching. We have Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard, who are our 2 best aces. But we have Wheeler and Matz and I'm forgetting the other person, but it's going to come to me, who are prone, and Harvey, who are prone to injuries. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they're going to do, if they're going to last the whole season, because our pitching is one of the best in the MLB. And then on our offensive side, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Cespedes works with this lineup and how Gonzalez and David Wright work within it. Both of them are getting to, they're a little old, so they're not going to play every day, but they're going to be veterans helping the new people like Smith, like Rosario, who just came up at the end of last season. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do in this season. But there's a lot to watch in spring training for the New York Mets.
Definitely exciting season up in the Big Apple for them. For my own team, the Baltimore Orioles, I think it's pretty well known that our pitching is what's holding us back. We've been going through dumpsters trying to find pitchers, just signing Andrew Cashner and Chris Tillman again. I think it'll be very interesting to see how well both of those hold up. Decent years from both of them. Could put us in the wild card, kind of a long shot. Definitely want to make with the last year Manny Machado's reign in Baltimore count. Another on the offensive side, right field and catcher, both interesting spots to look out for. For catcher, we have our top prospect, Chance Sisco, just turned 23 today. Happy birthday, Chance. I really hope that he wins it going forward. He looks really great average hitter, especially very rare for a catcher. Right field, my own Hyannis Harbor Hawk, Austin Hayes leads the way. I really hope he gets it just because it would be cool to go back to Hyannis and to be able to talk about him. That's all we have today on SportsZone. We'll catch you next week. Stay tuned for more SportsZone.
And welcome back to SportsZone. This is our NBA segment, throwing it up. I'm joined here by Johnny. So with the All-Star weekend passing, mid-season has come. We're going to talk about the big awards. If the season ended today, who we would give each award to. And we'll start off with the big one, most valuable player, the one everybody likes to talk about. A lot of guys in the running this year. James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and LeBron are the big ones, but other guys are also in discussion. So Johnny, if the season ended today, who would you give this award to?
Personally, I feel like this year there hasn't really been that much controversy for who should win MVP. A lot of people are saying Harden, but I think LeBron should be MVP because there's just been so much change going on with the Cavaliers, and he's been able to stay at his caliber level. almost averaging a triple-double on the year. With his new squad, with George Hill, Rodney Hood, he's been able to integrate them well. They won 4 straight right away. So I would say LeBron, he can really be MVP any year, but I think this is the year, hopefully he takes it and the league recognizes him once again.
Yeah. LeBron definitely has had a great year. In his almost 15th year in the NBA, it's still amazing how he's able to perform the way he is. I would personally go with James Harden, but definitely LeBron is in that discussion and could definitely win the award. Another big award that's been a talking point this year is Rookie of the Year. And pretty much 2 main guys that have been talked about are Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell. Ben Simmons, playing alongside Joel Embiid, has had a great year. He's dropped many triple-doubles. He has a great year. But also, you look at Donovan Mitchell for the Utah Jazz, who has propelled them to that big winning streak. So, Johnny, out of these 2 guys, who would you give the award to?
Right. This is a really tough award to predict who's going to win because statistically, Ben Simmons has had a rookie year similar to Magic Johnson. And we all know how Magic Johnson's career ended up to be. But I would probably give it to Donovan Mitchell just because after the Jazz are losing Gordon Hayward, not having him on the year after going to the Celtics, obviously, he's propelled them to a 10-game win streak. He's averaging over 20 points a game, I'm pretty sure. So I'll probably give it to Mitchell, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Simmons took it down. And Ben Simmons is not really a rookie, which is another thing. He's came into the league last year.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But Donovan Mitchell, I hope he wins the award. I think it'd be good for him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Donovan Mitchell, who's had an unbelievable year. Really, nobody saw it coming when he was drafted 13th overall, how great he would be, but he certainly proved the haters wrong, and he's had an unbelievable year, winning the dunk contest as well. So I would also give that award to Donovan Mitchell. And another big award that's been talked about is Coach of the Year. Many people have been saying Brad Stevens of the Boston Celtics has been doing well, but there have been a lot of teams this year who many didn't expect to do quite so well, even the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell, with Quinn Snyder as coach, but have done well. So, Johnny, out of all the teams that you think have overperformed maybe their rosters, who would you give Coach of the Year to?
I could see Brad Stevens winning it, but I don't think he deserves it just because last year the Celtics were good, and then they got Kyrie this year, so Kyrie makes them better, which makes me believe Stevens didn't really have to do much coaching-wise. So I would probably give it to Tom Thibodeau of the Timberwolves, just because they had a new roster this year and they are top 5 in the West right now, and they're all starting to put it together. Towns is having a great year. Jeff Teague's even having a great year, and he statistically has not been good in the past. So probably Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, Thibodeau certainly has done well this year. He did well with the Chicago Bulls when he was there at Derrick Rose, and again, sort of replicating success with this Minnesota Timberwolves team. So definitely he is somebody that could be in the discussion. And we'll switch over to another award, Most Improved Player. This is always an award where, many players can be in the discussion. So Johnny, who do you think deserves the Most Improved Player?
I think we're both going to agree on this. I think Victor Oladipo is going to for sure win the Most Improved Player, just because going from the Thunder, where he didn't really make much of an impact, to the Pacers, he made the All-Star team this year, first time ever. He's averaging well over 20 points a game, and he's just changed that whole city of Indiana around. Everybody is wearing an Oladipo jersey all around Indiana, so he'll probably win Most Improved. That's my prediction.
I tend to agree. When the Thunder made that trade with the Pacers, everybody said the Pacers were making a terrible trade getting Victor Oladipo back, but Victor Oladipo, certainly being an all-star this year, has proved people wrong and has propelled that Indiana Pacers team to be in the playoffs. And we'll finish off the last award, Defensive Player of the Year. This is another award where usually dominated by the big guys because of blocks, but certainly some guards and small forwards could be in the discussion this year. So, Johnny, who do you think deserves Defensive Player of the Year?
I want to ask you who you think, because I'm not really big on defense. I see Paul George winning it. He's leading the league in steals, but who do you think, personally?
I mean, Paul George definitely is in the discussion. I also think Draymond Green has got to be in the discussion every year because he's so good defensively. Personally, I would give it to Draymond Green, but definitely Paul George could be in that discussion.
I think Paul George. I think he'd be a good choice for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. Paul George certainly played well this season, especially on the defensive end. That Thunder team, which started off the year slow, has played a little better, and Paul George definitely, his defensive prowess, a big reason for that. And we'll finish off the segment by talking about an incident that happened last night in the game between the Thunder and the Golden State Warriors. Russell Westbrook goes up for a layup, goes down, and it appears as though Zaza Pachulia falls on Russell Westbrook's leg. Both Russell Westbrook and Paul George saying that Zaza intended to hurt Russell Westbrook. Zaza has had a pass with this. Remember, last playoffs he hurt Kawhi Leonard. So, Johnny, after watching that tape, do you believe that Zaza was intentionally trying to hurt Russell Westbrook?
I believe he does, and Aaron, I don't know if you saw this, but Kyrie Irving has had some strong words to say about Zaza. He said in an Instagram comment actually quoted, the league needs to look at this man. He's been causing trouble. We all know what happened last year with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi's still dealing with the effects from that injury. So I think the league definitely needs to suspend Zaza and look at him and look at his past plays. There's clips of him just intentionally trying to injure people all over YouTube. So what are your thoughts on it?
Definitely, I mean, you look at all these tapes, Zaza, I believe, deserves to be suspended and for a substantial amount of games, just because maybe the other ones there was discussions, but this is obviously him trying to fall on Russell Westbrook's leg, and to me, that's just an automatic suspension.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It was obvious if you look at it. Westbrook was down, Zaza was standing up, and he kind of jumps over his legs, and it wasn't even a question to me. It was definitely intentional.
Yeah, definitely intentional for that, and we'll see what the NBA does. So I think we'll finish off on that. Thanks to Johnny for joining us today, and more SportsZone after this.
Welcome back to SportsZone. This is our second edition of the Olympics segment, Passing the Torch. I'm joined by Aviva again this week to sort of wrap up the second week of action in Pyeongchang. Closing ceremonies will be tonight, and all medal events have concluded, so we can sort of reflectively look back at the Olympics as they were. Probably one of the biggest storylines of this past week was the U.S. Women's hockey team. They defeated Canada in the gold medal match 3-2. Aviva, this was a really big win for the women. It was 20 years in the making, a sort of historical result. So how important, sort of in the grand scope of this, was this for the women's hockey team?
It was really important. They came in, they weren't supposed to win this game. They weren't supposed to beat gold. Canada was the favorite, and they beat Canada 3-2 in a very exciting shootout. It went to like 7 rounds, and it definitely gave the USA a lot of fight, and it was really nice to see how well they actually did.
Yeah, the U.S. women medaling getting a gold medal for the first time since 1998. It also sort of supplements and is good for U.S. hockey, especially in a year where the men, when NHL players weren't allowed to compete, they had a lot of amateurs and college players. They got knocked out in the quarterfinals, didn't even make it to the medal round for the first time, coincidentally also since 1998, when the women last won a gold medal. So the U.S. retaining some bragging rights in hockey, and a really exciting game that it was. Another U.S. team won a gold medal, and while the U.S. women's hockey team sort of wasn't expected to win, you could plausibly see them winning, but the U.S. curling team had little to no expectations coming into this Olympics at all, but they were able to defeat Sweden after 2 weeks of competition, claiming the gold medal. Aviva, how odd was it for the United States to medal in this event?
Everyone's so excited that the men's won gold in curling. The men's were, like you said before, they weren't supposed to win. They beat Canada early on, and Canada might have been the favorite, but they beat Sweden 10-7 in a very exciting match that went back and forth. And I don't know, it was very exciting for the USA to get on top of curling, because curling is not a sport that United States is known for at all. So it was really exciting to see.
Yeah, and not necessarily something like hockey where people can rally around, but the men's curling team, I think, losing 4 of their first 6 pool play matches, they turned it around, went 5-4 in the pool play, and as you said, knocking out Canada, who was a favorite, knocking off Sweden, who was a heavy favorite in this gold medal match, sort of bringing some recognition to curling in the United States. But while the hockey and the men's curling team sort of did well, overall for the United States, a pretty disappointing Olympics. They finished a pretty distant 4th in the medal haul, behind teams like Norway, or countries like Norway and Germany. Aviva, do you think, when evaluated holistically, this has to be considered a failure for the United States at this Olympics?
Yeah, they've had the worst medal count since 1998. And they only had 23 medals. Norway had 39. So there's a big difference there. And the United States were a favorite in a few sports, like ice skating. No woman medaled in an individual event, and Nathan Chen, who was a favorite in his individual ice skating events, and he didn't medal either. So it's very disappointing in there. And last week we talked about Lindsey Vonn. She competed in 3 events. Only one event she got bronze. So skiing and ice skating were very disappointing for the Americans.
Yeah, certainly. Also, Michaela Schifrin was competing in all 5 alpine skiing events. She comes away with only 2 medals. She didn't even wind up competing in 2 of those events, so really disappointing there. U.S. didn't do very well in speed skating, either long or short track speed skating. Some events maybe where they're not expected to do well or weren't really favored, like the sliding events like luge, skeleton, and bobsled didn't really get the job done. And even in some sports maybe where they were expected to do well. We talked about Red Gerard last week. The American men did not do well in snowboard big air, so the United States sort of really dropping the ball a little bit. But you mentioned Norway. They got the highest medal count with 39 ever in an Olympics. Also got the highest number of gold medals, 14, sort of asserting their dominance on the global stage, which might be expected, a Nordic country doing well in the Olympics, to be expected. But Aviva, sort of when we look back at this Olympics, it's been a 2-week, sporting ceremony, lots of countries coming together, lots of great stories being shared. What do you think is one of the lasting impacts that will be of this Olympic Games?
I think, for me, it's how North Korea and South Korea were united. In the opening ceremonies, they marched as one country, and I think that's very symbolic of the world we are at right now. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, certainly showing that sports maybe seem as trivial to some people, but there can be some unifying aspects there. I think also the Olympic athletes from Russia, that'll be a big storyline to take away, not being able to compete under the Russian flag because of doping. Some athletes even getting in trouble with doping at the Olympics. So that, I think, will be sort of a black eye on an Olympics that, at least in the United States, wasn't received too well, whether it was the difference in timing or just poor displays by the Americans. But that sort of wraps up our Olympic coverage on SportsZone for the next 2 years until the Olympics roll around in 2020. So stick around for more SportsZone after this.
And welcome back to SportsZone. This is our favorite segment, Thumbles, where we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly in the world of sports and the world at large. I'll throw a thumbs up to being back at SportsZone. I've been gone for the past 2 weeks, so it's very nice to be back. Thumbs up, last 2 weeks there's been a lot going on in the sports world, especially in soccer, which is my area of expertise. A lot of Champions League going on. So I'll throw a thumbs up to Tottenham's performance away at Juventus. I don't think anybody expected them to get a result, but they did. And I'm always arguing with my friends because one of my friends thinks the Premier League is pretty bad. So this sort of proved that, a Premier League team in 3rd or 4th place can go and tie the best team in Italy, sort of proving that the Premier League is the best league in the world, in my opinion. So that was good to see. And other Premier League teams doing well as well. Liverpool winning, Man City winning, Chelsea and United tying. So definitely a good performance from English teams who usually don't do well in the Champions League because they sort of had a loaded schedule, but definitely doing well this year in the Champions League. So I'll throw a thumbs up to that. I'll throw a thumbs down. Me and Johnny talked about it in our NBA segment, but Zaza Pachulia again trying to injure somebody. This man needs to be suspended and for a substantial amount of games because this is just getting ridiculous. You look at what he did to Kawhi Leonard last playoffs, which I also think was intentional, and now Kawhi Leonard this season who's played 7 games, and now Greg Popovich coming out and saying he might not be able to play for the rest of the season. So pretty much dismantling Kawhi Leonard's season this season, then going out and trying to injure Russell Westbrook again. I'm not the biggest Russell Westbrook fan, but he did not deserve that, so I'll throw a big thumbs down to Zaza Pachulia for doing that. Also, thumbs down to the Knicks, who, they did snap their losing streak versus the Magic on Saturday, but again, on Friday, but then again lost yesterday. So without Kristaps Porzingis, it's looking bad, but hopefully we can get a high draft pick and get a good player. And yeah, that's all I got. I'll throw it over to Aviva.
Okay, so start off thumbs up that spring training games have started. so that means we're one step closer to baseball. Opening day for the Mets is March 29th, so before you know it. I'm going to give a thumbs up to the AU women's basketball team. They lost yesterday at Bucknell. It's their first loss, but they finished the season. They're regular season champions. They beat, I think they beat Holy Cross on Wednesday to be undefeated at home. So it's really good. They're going to host the Patriot League tournament next week. So that's really exciting to watch. Thumbs down to the weather. I feel like every week I talk about the weather, but like thumbs down. We had really nice weather on Tuesday and Wednesday, 7 degrees, and then for the past 4 days, it's been nonstop rain, like 50 degrees. I don't like it. Yeah, I think, thumbs up to the Olympics. It was a great 2 weeks. I loved watching it every single night on NBC. And good job to the women's hockey and the men's curling, like what Vince and I talked about earlier before. Yeah, and here's David.
It's been a while since I've been on here, 2 weeks. So we'll start with the Olympics. Thumbs up to every athlete that didn't dope. Good on you guys for keeping the integrity of the game going. I know that performance enhancing is something that we all like because we all want to win, but don't do it if it gives you through unnatural means. Train, become good. Don't rely on artificial means. Thumbs up to women's hockey. Great game. Really proud that we able to overcome a lot of rivalries to take that home. Thumbs up to the men's curling. I don't know the guy's name, but the guy with the mustache, he's just so beautiful. I love that mustache. I wish I could grow that mustache, but I can't just do a mustache. I look weird like that. On to football. Thumbs up for the Rams. Getting Marcus Peters, that's a solid move. Tremaine Johnson's gone, which means that they get a lot of cap space. So it'd be really interesting to see what they send over. It was apparently a bevy of draft picks, so hopefully they didn't give up too much. Thumbs up to Blake Bortles, the People's QB, signing that 3-year, $54 million contract. Really good on him to turn a good season into that, and good on the Jacksonville Jaguars for realizing that even with him, they're championship contenders, and not to risk losing him to someone. For baseball, spring training's back, as Aviva said. Really exciting for me. Looking forward to seeing how position battles play out, to see where Jake Arrieta, Lance Lynn, Alex Cobb sign, where Logan Morrison signs. I really hope that my Royals don't really do poorly. Really want to sign Lance Lynn, please. If they're watching this, I know they're not, but it'd be really nice. Other than that, thumbs up to my roommate. He blew up the hot tub yesterday, cleaned it out, so our hot tub's back out on our balcony. It's going to be a nice time. Thumbs up to, thumbs down to me. I only have $2 in my bank account right now. We'll pull a little URL for Kickstarter to get David food. Really appreciate donations. Just kidding, I'll be fine. Ramen's good enough for me. That's all I got for thumbs today. Here's Johnny.
What is up, guys? So I'm going to start with a quick thumbs down because I always like to end on a good note. I'm giving my thumbs down to Trae Young and the Oklahoma Sooners. Trae Young and Oklahoma they lost 6 games straight last week. With the NCAA March Madness tournament on the horizon, I don't see Oklahoma getting past the first weekend. Trae Young, his turnover to point ratio has not been good lately. He is averaging, I think, at least 6 turnovers a game. So NBA teams are starting to scout him and realize he may not be the player that they once thought he was. They had a nice win yesterday over Texas. Trae Young had 28, but still losing 6 straight with the tournament on the horizon is not a good look for them. I don't see them getting out of the second weekend, whoever they play. They'd be very lucky to. So that's my thumbs down. I'm going to give my thumbs up to the AU men's basketball team. I know we have not had a good year, but the Patriot League is on the horizon, and we played Lafayette on Tuesday. American is the number 10 seed, which is the last seed. So maybe this should have been my thumbs down, but Saeed Nelson, Sam Iorio, they're having career years so far, and I could see us getting out of the first weekend with a win against Lafayette. Maybe not the second weekend where we'd have to play number 2 Colgate, but I think this would be huge for the AU men's basketball program if even we got one win against Lafayette in the Patriot League tournament. So good luck to the AU men's basketball team. Hopefully we get a win. And that's my segment. Over to Vince.
All right. So I'll slide in. I'll start with a thumbs down to Arsenal. They this morning lost to Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final. Really, the only hope they really had of silverware, in my opinion, this season, that's now gone. Just to cap off a bad week where they lost at home to the Swedish opposition, playing sort of a reserve side. They are in the round of 16 in the Europa League, but a tough tie against AC Milan. I don't see Arsenal getting through that one. So just not a good time for Arsenal at all. I'll throw a thumbs down to the VCU men's basketball team. They did snap their streak. They were able to beat UMass on the road on Wednesday, but then they followed that up last night with a loss against St. Bonaventure. So it looks like they could be anywhere from the 5th to the 7th or 8th seed in the A10 when that tournament rolls around. So just really a bad year for VCU. And just as the NCAA as a whole, I'll throw a thumbs down with all the news coming out about paying players and those sorts of things, the numbers and figures that are coming out. Sean Miller saying that he would promise a player $100,000. He since didn't coach Arizona's game last night against Oregon, and questions maybe whether he'll ever coach in college basketball again. It's just sort of marring what's been a relatively exciting year in college basketball, where teams who haven't necessarily historically done well, doing well, but that's being clouded by all this talk of agents and players receiving improper benefits. So it's just sort of a black eye for the NCAA as a whole. On a positive note, I'll throw a thumbs up. AU's women's basketball team, they did clinch the top seed in the Patriot League tournament, even though they did lose to Bucknell over the weekend. So hopefully home court advantage will prove to be a good thing for them, and they can move forward and potentially bring home a second Patriot League title in 4 years. And I guess to round out, I'll throw a thumbs up to the Olympics. Maybe not as exciting as I hoped they would be going in, but a lot of cool storylines. Women's hockey team doing really well, curling, as we talked about. Shaun White getting some redemption. Lindsey Vonn returning to the Olympic slopes for the first time in over 8 years. So lots of exciting things there. Maybe while the U.S. didn't do as well as they would have hoped, still a lot of excitement generated back here in the States. And so I think that'll wrap us up here. So for David and Aaron and Aviva and Johnny, who is joining us for the first time, this has been Sports Zone. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
So we should get more people to come. I know Krista's in Florida doing her thing with the Mets, but she should be here anyway, so shout out there. What am I doing? All right, we're going to start that over. Jesus Christ, that was bad. That was bad.
No, how was that
There's
bad?
our intro right there.
How was the bad?
Who do you think deserved this award if the season was done today?
Personally, I think this is a very tough question because I think most people are going to be saying James Harden because maybe people think he got snubbed last year. Russ had a great year last year. Russ is having a great year this year. But this year, I would have to say LeBron would probably be MVP just because.
All right, wait a minute.
What?
Johnny, are you wearing a mic?
No.
Can you put a lap mic on?
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Just do the same. That was good. No,
Yeah,
do
I know.
the same thing you did.
Yeah, I know. I got to recreate that. All right.
Yeah.
I think we're good. All right. Are you gonna count us down? Or
Oh yeah, I can give you a countdown.
Yeah, like
All right.
I mean, you don't have. Yeah, okay, yeah, do it.
Sure, we're doing it.
All right.